I don't know if you guys cared for that intro. I don't really care for it either. But welcome to the Underdog podcast. I am your host, Jack Fothergill, and today we're going over a game series. We are going to start a series inside of the podcast where we go over game series. So today we start with Call of Duty. I've already tried recording this multiple times with my friend, and it has not worked, so I'm going to start with, I guess we'll go with, we're going to start with Black Ops 1. So, I hope you guys are having a good day, and, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Okay. The plot. The story. Alright. So we're going to start off with the campaign here. In April 1961, Mason, Woods, and Bowman take part in Operation 40 to assassinate Fidel Castro and assist the CIA-sponsored Cuban exiles during the Bay of Pigs invasion. Mason shoots Castro's body double and stays hidden to allow Woods and Bowman to flee in an extraction plane. He is captured by the real Castro, who hands him over to the Soviet Union. Imprisoned at Vorkuta Gulag, Mason befriends former Red Army soldier Viktor Rezanov. Rezanov gives Mason the identities of their enemies, Major General Nikita Dragovich, Colonel Lev Kravchenko, and ex-Nazi scientist Friedrich Steiner, who defeated the Soviet Union. In October 1945, Rezanov, Dmitry Petrenko, and their platoon were sent to extract Steiner from a Nazi base in the Arctic. However, they were betrayed by Dragovich, who tested Steiner's nerve gas, Nova 6, on Petrenko and his squad, killing them. Rezanov was spared when British commandos interested in acquiring Nova 6 attacked. He destroyed Nova 6 and escaped, only to be captured by the Soviets and sent to Vorkuta. The Soviets later recreated Nova 6 using British scientist Daniel Clark. By 1963, Mason and Rezanov spark an uprising to flee the prison. Rezanov stays behind to facilitate Mason's escape. In November, President John F. Kennedy authorized a mission to assassinate Dragovich. Mason, Woods, Bowman, and CIA agent Weaver are dispatched to the Baikonur Cosmodrome to disrupt the Soviet space program and eliminate members of Ascension, a Soviet program giving sanctuary to Nazi scientists. The team destroys the Soyuz spacecraft while Dragovich is seemingly killed in a car explosion. In January 1968, Mason's team is sent to Vietnam as part of a MACV-SOG. After defending Khe Sanh from a North Vietnamese assault, they recover a dossier on Dragovich from a Russian defector being held by the North Vietnamese army in Hue City during the Tet Offense. I'm really bad at reading today. I've been studying a lot. I'm sorry if this is really scrambled. The defector is revealed to be Rezanov. After Dragovich resurfaces, they penetrate Lao to recover a Nova 6 shipment from a downed Soviet plane. They are captured by Viet Cong and Spetsnaz forces at the crash site. Bowman is executed, but Woods and Mason escape, hijacking an Mi-24 Hind and crippling the Ho Chi Minh Trail before rescuing Rezanov from Kravchenko's base. They confront Kravchenko, but he primes grenades trapped to his body, forcing Woods to push both himself and Kravchenko out of a window. Mason presumes the two dead. Also, sorry if I mispronounced anything. Hudson and Weaver interrogate Clark in Kowloon City. Clark reveals the location of the facility in Mount Yamantau before being killed by Dragovich's men. Hudson and Weaver destroy the facility and retrieve a transmission from Steiner requesting to meet at Rebirth Island, as Dragovich will kill him next. Mason and Rezanov, meanwhile, head there to assassinate Steiner, succeeding as Hudson and Weaver arrive. Hudson and Weaver witnessed Mason carrying out the act alone while declaring himself to be Reznov, prompting the pair to interrogate him. It is revealed that Mason is hallucinating a string of randomized numbers. Dragovich has sleeper cells placed within each U.S. state capital which, when ordered by a broadcast of the numbers from his station, will release Nova 6. In response, the U.S., now at DEFCON 2, is preparing a preemptive nuclear strike on the Soviet Union. Hudson reveals that Mason was brainwashed by Dragovich at Vorkuta to serve as a Soviet sleeper agent and assassinate Kennedy. Reznov died during the breakout and the Soviet defector had been killed. Mason's visions of Reznov are a result of a dissociative identity disorder caused by the brainwashing. Prior to his death, Reznov reprogrammed Mason to assassinate Dragovich, Kravchenko, and Steiner. Mason remembers the location of Dragovich's broadcast station is a Russian ship named Rusalka off the coast of Cuba. An assault on the Rusalka begins with the United States Navy called in to destroy it. Mason and Hudson confront Dragovich in the underwater submarine base protecting the ship, with Mason drowning Dragovich. He escapes with Hudson and they join Weaver in the army. Footage of President Kennedy before his assassination of November 22, 1963 is shown, revealing Mason was among onlookers who watched him arrive at Love Field, suggesting Mason may have carried out his initial programming. They pulled off this campaign so well, and it ties into the second game and World at War and a lot of other games that come in the future and happened in the past, and they did amazing with it. The characters that they made were so likable and you feel, I guess, connected to them, like Mason and Woods. Everyone loves Mason and Woods, and I would rate that a good 9.8 out of 10 out of 10. Zombies, this was the first Zombies. I'm not reading all of that. Oh my god. Should I read all of that? During World War II, Dr. Ludwig Maxis formed Group 935, a group of scientists that was intended to improve the human condition. Lacking funds, they soon turned to creating superweapons to aid the Nazis. Their discovery of element 115 from a meteorite in Japan led to the creation of zombies. Maxis and his assistant Dr. Edward Richtofen also work on other projects leading to the creation of teleportation devices and 115-powered weapons. Attempting to use himself as a test subject, Richtofen accidentally teleports to a catacomb within the moon, where he comes into contact with a mysterious pyramid device that causes him to hear mysterious forces slowly taking away his sanity. He's later teleported to an exotic jungle known as Shangri-La, where he spends 3 weeks studying the Vril energy force. Upon returning to Germany, Richtofen secretly forms a plan to kill Maxis and gathers many members of Group 935 to build a moon base known as Griffin Station. While maintaining his cover with Maxis and the rest of Group 935, Richtofen manages to capture 3 soldiers, Tank Dempsey, Nikolai Belinsky, and Takeo Masaki. He begins to conduct experiments with element 115, causing memory loss for all 3 soldiers. This Black Ops 1, I think, was the first game with zombies after World at War to have perks in it, and it was so well put together, and the storyline was amazing. They had maps such as 5 with John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Robert McNamara, and Fidel Castro all in the Pentagon. Yeah, it was an amazing game. They had Ascension in there, and Shangri-La, all sorts of iconic maps that are put into the Zombie Chronicles. I would rate it an amazing game out of amazing game. Okay. Moving on to Black Ops 2. In 1986, Alex Mason, now retired from active duty, pursues an obscure existence in Alaska with his son, 7-year-old David. Their shaky relationship is further strained when Mason is approached by Jason Hudson for an assignment in Condo Cabango. During the height of the Angolan Civil War and South African Border War. And I don't think that's how you say it. Angola, so Angolan. Frank Woods and his team have disappeared aiding Jonas Savimbi's UNITA rebels, or UNITA rebels against Angola's Marxist government. Their actions have already been disavowed by the CIA, but Hudson hopes to rescue any survivors. Mason and Hudson recover Woods from the Kavango River, subsequently encountering Raul Menendez among a contingent of Cuban military advisors. After a lengthy firefight, the trio are rescued by Savimbi. It is revealed that Menendez is responsible for holding Woods captive after murdering his team. In light of this, Mason, Woods, and Hudson began tracking Menendez, an established primary arms dealer from the Bush conflicts in Southern Africa and Latin America. The CIA later authorized a strike against unscrupulous Nicaraguan, making a healthy profit running arms across Soviet-occupied Afghanistan. The trio and Chinese operative Tian Zhao, ally with an Afghan Mujahideen, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, against the Soviets. I haven't played Black Ops 2 in so long, since like 2015, but I remember playing Black Ops 1 and 2 so much, like at least back to back each day. But it's been so long, and I've also gotten worse with words. They capture Lev Kurchenko, who survived the grenade explosion with Woods in Vietnam, and interrogate him into disclosing that Menendez has moles inside the CIA before executing him. The Mujahideen then betray the Americans and Zhao, leaving them to die in the Afghan wilderness until they're rescued by two unidentified civilians. The origins of Menendez's anti-American sentiment is revealed at this point. His sister Josefina was disfigured in a fire as part of an insurance fraud masterminded by an American businessman. The CIA sanctions the assassination of Menendez's father after uncovering his ties to South American drug trade. Mason Woods and husband and Panamanian security forces led by President Manuel Noriega raid Menendez's compound in Nicaragua. During the chaos, Woods inadvertently kills Josefina with a grenade. Conspiring with Noriega to fake his demise, Menendez crosses paths with Mason and Woods again during the American invasion of Panama. Revealing that he had coerced Hudson to be his mole, Menendez captures Hudson and David and has Hudson manipulate Woods into shooting Mason before crippling Woods. He then executes Hudson, promising to return and complete his revenge at a later date. In 2025, Menendez reemerges as the charismatic leader of Cordis Die, a militant populist movement. His organization stages a cyber attack that cripples the Chinese stock exchanges, forcing the government to leverage its economic influence and sparking a second Cold War between NATO and the Chinese-led Strategic Defense Coalition headed by Zhao. David, now a Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander codenamed Section, spearheads an effort by American Joint Special Operations Command to track down Menendez. They fail to apprehend him, but learn that Menendez is planning a second cyber attack with global repercussions dependent on a quantum supercomputer engineered by rogue developer Chloe Lynch. Section and two other SEALs, Harper and Salazar, either rescue Lynch by killing Menendez second in command to Falco, or he escapes. The Strike Force mission's second chance must be completed to rescue Lynch if the latter occurs. Those Strike Force missions and the way it affects the story just a bit and the ending a lot was so much fun to tinker with. JSOC finally captured Menendez in Yemen with the assistance of undercover CIA agent Farid. However, prior to being apprehended, Menendez orders Farid to kill a captured Harper. Farid will be executed by Menendez if he refuses. African forces take Menendez aboard the aircraft carrier USS Barack Obama. The USS Barack Obama, commanded by Admiral Briggs. However, Menendez escapes with the aid of a mole inside JSOC's Salazar. How Salazar's betrayal pans out is determined on the fates of Lynch, Farid, and DeFalco. Menendez hacks into the U.S. military satellites to seize control of their entire drone fleet. Whether the Americans regain control is determined by whether the strike force missions were completed and whether Briggs remains alive to activate the ship's defenses. Regardless, Menendez uses the drones to attack Los Angeles during a meeting of G20 leaders, hoping to kill them and foment widespread economic and civil chaos, with the drones also targeting several other strategic cities across the U.S. and China. Section escorts the President of the United States to safety in a Cougar HE. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Menendez is tracked to Haiti, where Section must either execute or re-apprehend him. There's lots of endings, and the campaign was the Black Ops 1 campaign was so well put together with Woods' imagination. What's it? But this one, with the Strike Force missions, it was really fun, and I liked the bit of futuristic touch to it, but it could have had more creativity. It was really well done, but I would have liked it if it had more creativity by people. Okay, so I am now at my friend's house. Hopefully my microphone will sound a bit better because I'm a bit more isolated. You might hear some fan in the background because my computer and whatnot. But yeah, let's get back to it. Let's do zombies. In Nevada, a team of CIA and CDC operatives investigate a nuclear testing site known as Nuketown, where they are attacked by zombies. At the same time, Dr. Edward Richtofen seizes control of the zombies by entering the ether from Group 935's moon base. However, Dr. Ludwig Maxis joins with his daughter Samantha and Richtofen's former allies Tank Dempsey, Nikolai Blinsky, and Takeo Masaki to thwart him. To end this, Maxis launches 3 massive nuclear missiles filled with Element 115, the element responsible for the reanimation of dead cells at the Earth, destroying its atmosphere. One missile completely destroys Nuketown and all present except for one individual, Marlton Johnson, who escapes after hiding out in the site's bunker. 10 years later, following the events on the moon, Earth has been reduced to a crumbling, hellish wasteland overrun by zombies. In this new world, 4 survivors, Samuel Stellinger, Abigail Misty Brierton, Marlton, and Russman, have banded together to survive in Washington with the help of a bus driven by a robotic driver. The 4 are contacted by both Richtofen and Maxis, who is now a digital artificial interface for aid against the other. Both former scientists request the 4 to assist them in powering up a tower within the area to work in their favor. Once done, regardless of the path they choose, they are teleported by Richtofen to a crumbling skyline in Shanghai, China. The 4 learn of the Flesh, a cannibalistic cult that chooses to eat zombie meat, as well as the beginnings of new airborne pandemic of Element 115. Stallinger is threatened by Richtofen, who knows of his past as a member of the Flesh, which allows only him to hear Richtofen, not the others. At the site, Maxis and Richtofen once again instruct the 4 to power up the second tower. Following their battles in Shanghai, Russman leads the group across the continents to a large hole in the ground known as the Rift in Africa, hoping to find answers about the unseen forces commanding them. Richtofen commands Samuel to mend the rift. The 4 gain a new ally in the form of a mute giant, real name Arthur, in a western town warped underground by temporal displacement, and are hampered by a ghostly woman in a massive mansion. In the canonical ending, the group aids Maxis, allowing him to use the power from the towers to enter the ether and assume ultimate control, trapping Richtofen in a zombie's body. However, the Earth begins shaking, and Maxis explains to the 4 that he's beginning the process of the destruction of Earth and humanity to reach Agartha, where he believes Samantha is. In the non-canon ending, the group aids Richtofen, letting him gain unlimited power over the ether and the Earth, allowing him to kill Maxis and condemn Samantha's soul to eternal damnation. You guys know the main zombies track, The Damned, or just Damned, sorry. One of the most iconic tracks. That is what has built this game, man. Following the canonical ending, Maxis then plucks Samantha's soul from Richtofen's body on the moon and forces her to join him Agartha. Realizing her father has been corrupted by the ether, Samantha reaches out to an alternate version of him who resides in Dimension 63. She ends up in 1918 in France during World War I, where Group 935 was formed much earlier, with Maxis as one of its leaders. Operating to secure German. That is so weirdly lettered. It says, operating to secure a German victory in the war. Group 935 created mechanical robots as well as staffs that can control the powers of the elements. Stumbling upon an ancient tomb believed to be of real origin, they accidentally unleashed the first known zombie outbreak in history. Aiming to stop Germany, Japan, Russia, and the United States of America, send Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey, to capture Richtofen, the mastermind behind the advanced technology. By this time, Group 935's operatives had been wiped out, and Maxis himself was lobotomized when he began to turn into a zombie. The group were contacted by Samantha, who begs them to free her from Agartha. Richtofen puts Maxis's brain into a flying drone, and he joins the fight against the zombies to free Samantha. The group is eventually successful. While Maxis meets his daughter, they enter Agartha to be rewarded. A cutscene is playing showing Samantha with a boy named Eddie inside of a house playing with toys of the characters who appear in the Zombies games throughout all 3 games. Air raid sirens are heard and 2 children retreat to the basement with Maxis, with Samantha noting her father has a plan to make the heroes of their games real. A separate story, Mob of the Dead, takes place in Dimension 63, focuses on 4 mobsters, Salvatore Sal DeLuca, Billy Handsome, Michael Finn O'Leary, and Albert the Weasel, Arlington, who are incarcerated at Alcatraz Island. On New Year's Eve 1933, the 4 attempt to escape the prison, using Weasel's plan to build a makeshift airplane called Icarus. However, the prison becomes infested with zombies, and they are forced to fight their way out. They succeed in building the airplane, but crash land at the Golden Gate Bridge. They are then teleported back to the prison with no memories of their previous attempt except a Weasel who keeps a journal of the ongoing events. They continuously try to escape, but the result remains the same. After many failures, they discover what they are actually stuck in purgatory, constantly repeating a cycle as punishment for their past sins. In reality, the escape plan never came to fruition, and Weasel was killed by the other 3 on New Year's Eve, while the rest were given the death penalty weeks later. Having remembered the truth, Sal, Billy, and Finn set out to kill the Weasel once again. 2 possible endings can occur. If Weasel is killed, the cycle repeats once again. If Weasel lives and the other three are killed, the cycle is broken and he is finally freed of his punishment. The latter ending is canonical. The whole start to, I think Origins was the map that started the main gang, which was Takeo, Tank, and I completely forgot it for a second. What the heck is going on? I just lost it. Nikolai, sorry, I'm so stupid. So Takeo, Nikolai, Dempsey, and Richtofen, that's the gang right there. And the way they built up the transit people, and all those maps. People don't like those maps, but I really enjoy them because they're fun to play and fun to laugh at if they're stupid. So I'd rate, based off of, like, how much better it was, storyline related, to Black Ops 1 Zombies, I'd rate it a good 11 out of 12. The Black Ops 2 multiplayer was so amazing. I love the weapons, they are so iconic, and just the gameplay was so much better. Although, like, Black Ops 1 and, just Black Ops 1 was really fun to play. Black Ops 2, as games grow and the game developers and stuff like that, and they gain more ideas and knowledge, it was so much better, in my opinion. So I'd give that a good 12 out of 12. Okay, I just got a question from Soundtrap, the studio I'm using. What is the likelihood that you would recommend Soundtrap to a friend or colleague? 9. What's the reason for your answer? JFK. Send. Okay, so on October 27th, 2065, the Winslow Accord Black Ops initiate a successful mission in Ethiopia to rescue hostages from the tyrannical Nile River Coalition. However, the player is critically wounded by a combat robot. Rescued by Taylor, the player undergoes cybernetic surgery to save their life, being installed with a direct neural interface and receiving virtual training from Taylor and his team during surgery. Hendricks also undergoes surgery. After 5 years of wet work, the player and Hendricks are put under the command of Rachel Kane and tasked with investigating a CIA black site in Singapore that has gone quiet. They find the area attacked by 54 immortals and the site's data stolen. Kane concludes that Taylor and his team defected and murdered the staff. The player and Hendricks then disguise themselves as arms dealers and meet with the 54 immortals. The mission goes awry and the recovery is blown, causing the death of one of the 54 Eyes leaders, Go-Min. They managed to recover data regarding Taylor's last known location, a facility in the Coalition's Corporation in Singapore, destroyed 10 years prior in a mysterious explosion that killed 300,000 people and turned most of the islands east inhospitable. The player and Hendricks travel to the facility and discover a hidden CIA research laboratory. The pair find Diaz leaking CIA information and are forced to kill him. Interfacing with Diaz's DNI, Hendricks discovers Taylor is trying to find the survivors of the explosion, Sebastian Kruger and Dr. Yusuf Salim. The leaked information allows the Immortals to capture Kane. The players disobey Kane's orders to leave and rescues her by killing the Immortals under leader Go-Min's sister, Zhao Lin. The trio then heads to Egypt and finds Salim, who reveals that he performed secret DNA experiments involving comforting humans via a common exercise involving imagining a frozen forest. Salim is then interrogated and executed by Taylor. The player, Hendricks, and Kane pursue Taylor with assistance from the Egyptian army. After killing Hall, the player connects to her DNA and encounters Corvus, a Gestalt intelligence created during the experiments to monitor thoughts of DNA users, which malfunction, causing the explosion. Infecting Taylor and his team, Corvus made them obsessed with finding the forest, with the player and Hendricks also becoming infected after interfacing with Hall and Diaz. This is such a mouthful, bro. I gotta do like one breath to read a 500-word paragraph. After killing Moretti, the pair track down Taylor in Cairo. After wounding the player, Taylor manages to resist Corvus and tears DNI out, sparing the player. However, Hendricks succumbs to Corvus and kills Taylor before abandoning the player, leaving for Zurich to find Kruger. The player races to Zurich with Kane to stop him. Researching Zurich's Coalescence Corporation, the pair find Corvus caused the explosion with the gas Nova 6. There it is. Kane attempts to contain it, but Corvus locks her in the compound room, leaving the gas to kill her in front of the helpless me, the player. Cracking my neck. Ugh. Continuing on, the player finds Hendricks holding Kruger hostage. After Hendricks kills Kruger, the player kills him in turn. The player then tries to kill himself to end Corvus' infection, but ends up in a simulated forest created by Corvus to retain the consciousness of dead DNI users. Still alive after becoming glitched in the forest, Taylor reunites with the player, stating that they must purge their DNI to end Corvus. With Taylor's help, the player must resist Corvus' last-ditch manipulation and purges their DNI, erasing the virus. Stumbling out of Zurich headquarters, the player identifies themselves to Zurich security forces as Taylor. Beautifully well done. It was not as good as Black Ops 1 and 2, but they definitely did an amazing job at the simulation and the infection of Corvus and all sorts of characters they have to go through. It was like a medium long compared to other campaigns. It was like a medium-sized long campaign, and it was really, really fun to play. The elements of Black Ops 3 were just like Advanced Warfare, which we will probably go over next episode with the Warfare ones. And it had like the jetpacks and it had the power sliding and stuff, and they didn't really use that in the campaign, which I liked, because I liked just having the on-foot futuristic stuff, like all of the DNI powers that you could use, like controlling robots or powering off drones with moving your hand into empty space. And everything else was just so fun. The only thing I didn't like about the game was the diamond skin. It was basically just gold with a few plots of black on it, but it's whatever. Let's move on to multiplayer just for this. The multiplayer mode of Black Ops 3 features a shared narrative setting with the campaign, in which players battle in virtual simulations across a variety of battlefields while wielding the avatars of 9 elite soldiers referred to collectively as specialists. Infantry Grunt Donnie Ruin Walsh, Scouts Woman Alessandra Outrider Castillo, Engineer David Prophet Wilkes, Demolitions Expert Aaron Battery Baker, 54 Immortals Enforcer Seraph Zen Zen, Survivalist Tavo Nomad Rojas, Specialized Combat Robot Reaper, Assassin Spectre, and Arsonist Christoph Firebreak Hejek. Through progression of each specialist, players can unlock audio logs that provide backstories to each of the soldiers. Full progression of all specialists unlocks a final audio log in which an unknown informant reports to their superior after keeping tabs on 8 other soldiers, implying that one of the specialists is not a simulated avatar, but the real person is injecting themselves into the simulation to monitor the others. I should have done that last, because that would have been a good transition into Black Ops 4, but we're going to read the entire storyline of Black Ops 3, which is longer than my lifespan. Following the undead outbreak in 1918, northern France of Dimension 63, Dr. Ludwig Maxis, whose brain resided in mechanical drone at the time, arrives in Agartha and is given a new body by Dr. Monty, a self-proclaimed omnipotent being and a member of the Order of the Keepers. After helping to cleanse the soul of his daughter Samantha from the original timeline, Monty instructs Maxis to retrieve an artifact called the Summoning Key, a powerful artifact that can fix their world back to its original state. To do so, Maxis instructs his friend Dr. Edward Richtofen to retrieve the Chronorium, an ancient book detailing the events of every universe and dimension, which contains the location of the Key. After learning of the Key's location, Richtofen travels to Dimension 63 and arrives in Morgue City in 1944, where the Apothecans, former keepers who were corrupted and mutated by the dark energy of the ether, manipulated 4 individuals. Jessica Rose, a burlesque dancer, Jack Vincent, a corrupt cop, Floyd Campbell, an up-and-coming boxer, and Nero Blackstone, a washed-out magician. Misled into doing the bidding of the head apothecary named the Shadow Man, the 4 opened a rift beneath the city using the Summoning Key, thereby freeing an ancient apothecary beast. With the Keeper's aid, the 4 managed to trap the Shadow Man inside the Key and banish the beast from their dimension. Before they could retrieve the Summoning Key from the Keepers, however, Richtofen snatches the key from them, thanks them for their efforts, and exits out of the portal, leaving the 4 and the rest of the Dimension 63 to be doomed by the Apothecans. The Dimension 63 versions of Tank Dempsey, Nikolai Blinsky, and Takeo Masaki pursue Richtofen and his interdimensional journey and arrive in the Doris facility in the original timeline, only moments after Maxis and Samantha were teleported away by the original Richtofen. The 3 attempt to convince him to awaken their original selves, but are interrupted by the Dimension 63 Richtofen, who appears out of the teleporter and kills his counterpart, triggering various timeline fractures. The 4 then band together to fend off the zombie horde once more. Eventually, they activate a beacon within the facility, allowing Maxis to locate them from Agartha. In pursuit of the original Dempsey, the 4 then travel to Der Eisendrache, Group 935's fortress in Austria. Despite 935 member Dr. Groff's attempt at preventing the group from retrieving the test subject, he ultimately fails and perishes when Richtofen overrides the castle's defense system and sends a barrage of missiles to destroy the moon and Group 935's base on it. As the 4 retrieve the original Dempsey, Richtofen reveals his plan to prevent their original incarnations from wreaking havoc upon the universe. Dimension 63 Dempsey then volunteers to kill his own counterpart before allowing Richtofen to absorb his soul with the Key. Afterwards, the group attempts to teleport to a new fractured timeline to locate the original Takeo who was held prisoner at Pacific Island by the Japanese research group Division 9. They discovered that Division 9 has been experimenting with plant life mutation using element 115, with the original Takeo also a victim of the experimentation. After they managed to release him from the mutation, Dimension 63 Takeo was shocked to learn that the Emperor of Japan betrayed his original self and sent him to this island out of petty jealousy. The original Takeo proceeds to commit seppuku with Dimension 63 self decapitating him. After absorbing the original Takeo's soul with the key, Richtofen takes the crew to Alcatraz in Dimension 63, where they retrieve several blood vials, the purpose of which he refuses to explain at the time. Black Ops 4. The crew then teleports to another fractured timeline. I think it's Black Ops 4, I don't know. The crew then teleports to another fractured timeline and lands in war-torn Stalingrad in 1945, where the Soviet Union has stolen Group 935's technology to create their own giant robots and mechanical soldiers, while Germany is aided by ancient dragons resurrected and bred by Division 9. As the crew traverses across the city, they are forced to help Sophia, Max's former assistant, who has been transformed into a machine, to initiate the Ascension Protocol, allowing her to gain knowledge of interdimensional travel. Monty also introduces himself to the crew as he informs them of the state of the multiverse. Amidst the chaos, the original Nikolai, who was taken control of the modified drone unit, teams up with the group to destroy the Alpha Dragon. However, upon the dragon's death, Nikolai refuses to surrender, forcing the four to take out his drone. The original Nikolai is angered by his Dimension 63 self as he mentions their deceased wife and attempts to shoot him, only to be killed in retaliation. With all souls collected, Richtofen calls out to Maxis to summon a portal and release the souls into it. The group returns to Agartha and arrives in The House, a place built by Monty to prevent all forces from evil infecting it, ensuring the safety of the children, Samantha and cleansed versions of the original souls in child form. After sealing off the house from the rest of the multiverse, Maxis is manipulated by the voice of the Shadow Man into releasing him upon contact with the summoning key. The Shadow Man then uses the power to merge various other dimensions, including the Dark Ether, allowing the Apothecans to enter and wreak havoc. Richtofen and the crew manage to help Sophia enter the dimension with her assistants retrieve the summoning key and the Chrononium. They then confront the Shadow Man together and defeat him once and for all using the combined power of the two artifacts. Maxis, who still resides within the key, then absorbs the souls of the children into the key and joins Sophia as they fly toward the Apothecan sun, banishing all Apothecan presences in Agartha. Richtofen and the crew are able to remain in dimension without fading from existence thanks to the blood vials they retrieved earlier. Monty, worried about the four becoming a paradox in this perfect world, contemplates between erasing their existence and sending them to a distant corner of the universe. In a moment, the four begin to fade away. They reappear in ancient medieval times, where they would be remembered as Primus, heroes who aided the Keepers in sealing away the Apothecans in the Great War, effectively completing the cycle of the universe. I loved playing zombies. I have every DLC in that game besides like the DLC weapons. I have every multiplayer DLC, and I have every zombies DLC, including Zombie Chronicles, which doesn't affect the story at all, or does anything to the story, has anything to do with it. But like Shadows of Evil, Derizen Drek, what's that one called? Zetsubo no Shima, Garad Krovi, and then Revelations, I think. They were all so well made, and the story, how it connects between every single zombies game, is so perfectly well done. Not perfectly, but it was so well done that I'd give it a good 9.9 out of 10. We still got 2 games to go over, so brace yourself. Also, Jack Wall, thank you for the amazing music, which is in the Call of Duty Black Ops franchise. So Black Ops 4 multiplayer features the return of specialists, unique soldier characters with their special abilities and traits. At launch, the game featured a total of 10 specialists, 6 of which Ruin, Prophet, Battery, Seraph, Nomad, and Firebreak, and are returning characters from Black Ops 3, while the other 4, Recon, Ajax, Torque, and Crash, are new additions. Unlike Black Ops 3, the game allows only 2 unique specialists per team in order to emphasize the role of each character. Following launch, more specialists were added to the roster with unique weaponry and equipment. Multiplayer has also been reworked with various changes for more tactical and teamwork gameplay. Automatic health regeneration is removed in favor of manual healing system, with each player having a health bar. Weapons are now given predictive recoil patterns and a mixed ballistic system, using both hit scan and projectile damage is employed as opposed to just hit scan. Weapon customization is also emphasized, allowing for deeper personalization of players' arsenals. Attachments are also given tiers, with tier 2 upgrades providing even bigger improvements to the weapons. Certain weapons are also offered operator mods, which significantly change how a weapon works, while costing a significant portion of the 10 customized slots per class. In addition, the game includes Specialist Headquarters, a solo mode featuring skill-based tutorials that unlock backstories on various specialists in the game. The missions are set within the same narrative world of the Black Ops campaigns between the events of Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3. Yeah. So this game didn't have... This game didn't have a campaign, but it did have, like it just said, that storyline. So we're going to go over all of that. This synopsis here. Multiplayer / Blackout. In the year 2043, during a covert mission involving a mercenary group, Jessica Mason Green, a U.S. Army specialist, is presumably killed while her 2 squad mates, Donnie Ruin Walsh and Aaron Battery Baker, escaped with critical injuries. 2 years later, Savannah Mason Meyer, a trillionaire researcher and Jessica's sister, recruits 10 of the world's most elite soldiers, including Ruin and Battery, for a top-secret project against an unknown threat. Savannah uses a combat immersion program to train the specialists in virtual simulation, with Sergeant Frank Woods acting as their instructor. While taking a break from training, Ruin discusses with Battery about their survival 2 years prior and that he received a warning message from a mysterious individual. At some point, the individual contacts Ruin at his home, tipping him off to an ambush by mercenaries. Ruin survives the ordeal and arrives at a warehouse where he confronts the individual, revealed to be Jessica, who remained alive and went undercover. It is implied that Savannah intends to eliminate all the specialists she hired, and that she was somehow responsible for the botched mission in 2043. Woods is then shown in an asylum standing beside a wheelchair using Alex Mason. As Mason utters to himself, Woods tells him that it has always been him in the box. Intel files unlocked from completing specialist tutorial missions reveal additional stories. Savannah is revealed to be running Project Blackout, an experiment that is implied to be about resurrection of the dead through unknown means. The project was successful in reviving 4 subjects referred to as archetypes: Mason, Woods, Victor Reznov, and Raul Menendez. The latter is tasked with overseeing the project alongside Savannah. Jessica, who disapproves of Savannah's actions, was revealed to have been actually shot by Savannah during the heated argument between the 2 sisters. Battery is revealed to have been seeing flashes of numbers, an effect of the brainwashing technique that Mason previously experienced during the Cold War, further hinting that the event of the mission in 2043 may not have been real. Woods, who is involved in a relationship with Savannah, is tasked with brainwashing Mason using the same technique from before for an unknown purpose. The latter was then allowed to meet Reznov, who Woods claims to have survived the events of Vorkuta. The Zombies Chaos story, which is Bruno Shaw, a lady, and another dude. It'll say the names. On March 20th, 1912, treasure hunter Alistair Rhodes hosts a party at his mansion in England, where many of his associates are invited. However, the Order, an ancient cult who has been after Alistair for some time, kidnaps him by enslaving his butler Godfrey to do their bidding. Using a mysterious device called a Sentinel artifact, the Order releases a substance called Prima Materia, transforming all of the guests in the mansion into zombies, sparing only Godfrey and 3 other guests, Gideon Jones, Christina Fowler, and Jonathan Warwick. Now this band is called, I think, In the Dead of Night, and this was one of the worst maps character-wise, I think. The 4 band together to battle against the combined forces of undead, werewolves, and vampires roaming the mansion. After successfully completing the trial, the 4 put an end to the undead outbreak, but Godfrey, under the influence of his dark self, murders the other 3 and inadvertently sets the mansion on fire. He is then killed by Alistair's daughter, Scarlet, that's her name, who then gives chase to her father's kidnappers. She fails to rescue Alistair, but finds a letter he left behind instructing her to seek out 3 of his most trusted associates, Bruno Delacroix, Diego Nakai, and Stanton Shaw. After recruiting Alistair's 3 friends, Scarlet boards the RMS Titanic with them in search of a Sentinel artifact, which is kept locked up. They successfully acquire it, but then encounter a member of the Order who activates the artifact to transform every ship member and the passenger into zombies. This is the real thing that happened on the Titanic, guys. This is actually what happened. I can't believe that they made fake movies. Imaginations are useless. Just as the ship crashes with an iceberg, the 4 work together in order to recover the Sentinel artifact and restore it. In doing so, they activate an ancient trial which tests them with various puzzles and tasks. Upon successful completion of the trial, the prima materia's effect is reversed and all passengers on the Titanic are reverted to the human state. The crew discovers an apparition of a gateway, but before they can interact with it, they are forced to escape as the ship sinks. Shaw points the crew toward their next destination, Delphi, Greece, in order to find answers. Unbeknownst to the crew, Bruno possesses the same marking that Godfrey had, hinting at his dark self taking over. Scarlet and the gang are guided by the Oracle of Delphi to an ancient cavern where the gateway is located. After inhaling a mysterious vapor, they begin to hallucinate and are taken back in time to an gladiatorial arena in Roman Egypt, where the High Priest of Chaos sees a Sentinel artifact, it says, where the High Priest of Chaos, S-E-S, High Priest of Chaos says, a Sentinel artifact to turn slaves into zombies and pit them against gladiators for entertainment. The crew, now taking on the form of gladiators, is forced to fight for survival as they complete various challenges to appease the 4 gods, Danu, Ra, Zeus, and Odin. Upon completion of the challenges, they face off against a combined force of undead warriors in the arena and emerge victorious. The completion of the trial opens a portal to the Library of the Nine, but the High Priest fails to access it. He then has Scarlet and the rest executed despite their demand for clemency. Snapping out of the hallucination, Scarlet then inputs the symbols she saw on the portal into the gateway, allowing the crew to enter the ancient city of Delphi. They meet up with the Oracle, who has been trapped there for centuries amidst an ongoing Sentinel trial. Hoping to prevent the ancient demigod Perseus from slaying the Olympian gods, she assists them in fighting against the zombie horde roaming the city, as well as various ancient mythical Greek creatures. In the midst of the trial, Bruno's dark self takes over temporarily and secretly kills Shaw, then revives him using the Scepter of Ra, allowing Shaw to be enslaved by his dark self. The trial reaches its culmination as the crew battles against Perseus and his winged steed Pegasus and triumphs. When Scarlet attempts to free the Oracle, the other 3 follow her directions to look for Alistair, only to find that he and the Order members have been petrified. Diego runs back in horror and discovers that the Oracle was Medusa in disguise. Medusa renders Scarlet unconscious after acquiring certain knowledge from her mind. Diego manages to retrieve Scarlet and hides as Medusa declares her eventual ownership of the library and world domination. The zombies' ether story, which is the main dudes that we all know. During their mission to secure their own souls, the Primus crew takes a detour to Alcatraz Island, where Edward Richtofen plans to acquire blood vials items he deems necessary for his insurance policy to protect his companions. Upon encountering a past version of himself, Richtofen is given the Chronorium book and learns that the contents of the book have changed and that his own blood is now demanded by the prison's warden. Through their attempt to survive his wrath, Primus learns that the Warden, working for the ancient apothecary race via the Shadow Man, intends to use Richtofen's blood to power a special machine called the Dark Mechanism, due to it creating or containing a massive amount of ether energy. After gaining the trust of the various spirits residing in the prison, Primus engages in a final showdown against the Warden and his zombie hordes, aided by the spirits of Alcatraz. Richtofen eventually enters the Dark Mechanism and willingly lets it extract his blood, hoping for a chance at defeating the Warden. This in return releases another Richtofen who has lived through a previous cycle of the events and kept himself cryogenically frozen and under Alcatraz for years. Using the fire element gem from the ancient staff of fire, the newly awakened Richtofen greatly weakens the Warden, allowing Primus to defeat him and free all souls in Alcatraz from their torment. Having broken the cycle, Richtofen hands the chromium to Nikolai Belinsky and passes over the leadership mantle, convincing the latter that his soul is needed to defeat the omnipotent Dr. Monty. The new cycle's Richtofen is left to die as his blood is drained by the Dark Mechanism. Back in the original timeline, following their adventures at Shangri-La, the Ultimus crew attempts to teleport to the moon immediately, but instead ends up at the Pentagon in 1963. Meanwhile, the Ascension facility in Russia, the scientist Yuri Zavoysky tricks his partner Gersh into activating a black hole device, sucking him into it per the orders of a corrupted Samantha Maxis. Yuri uses the device to travel to the Pentagon and unleash the zombie horde experimented on by the U.S. government against Ultimus. The four battle against the undead across the Pentagon as well as the Groom Lake facility of Area 51. Unbeknownst to them, a future version of Ultimus following the destruction of the Earth in 2025 time traveled back to Groom Lake months before they routed all of their past selves. Richtofen, whose body was occupied by Samantha's soul from the future, went into a comatose state when her soul was sucked out. However, he was revived when a zombified Richtofen arrived sometimes later and interacted with his comatose self, transferring his consciousness to the new body. As the future Ultimus remains in captive at Groom Lake, Primus arrives and convinces them to leave together in preparation for the Great War. Primus and Ultimus traveled together to Camp Edward, a nuclear testing facility run by the American research group Broken Arrow, in search of an elemental shard. They activate the facility's artificial intelligence codenamed Rushmore, who agrees to give them the shard in exchange for them proving their worthiness. After completing several tasks and demonstrating the core values of Broken Arrow, Rushmore then proceeds to open the APD, American Pyramid device, which houses Broken Arrow's director, Cornelius Purnell, who has been transformed into an electric being following an experiment with the shard. Dubbing himself Avogadro, Purnell then battles Primus and Ultimus, but ultimately fails and is teleported to a different Broken Arrow facility in Hanford, Washington. The crew retrieves the elemental shard, but then learn from Dr. Ludwig Maxis, who has been residing in Agartha, that Monty is aware of their plan. Maxis reveals that Monty will be able to wipe out the Apothecans and the presence of Element 115, but at the cost of his own life. Thus, he intends to perpetuate the cycle. As he attempts to send Samantha and Eddie to safety, Monty reveals his true form and devours Maxis. Samantha arrives at Camp Edward, regaining her ether powers once more and swears vengeance on Monty. Primus and Ultimus take a temporary break in a forest and celebrate before their final battle. Back in Alcatraz, the cryopods in Richtofen's lab, releasing the Victus crews from their slumber. Ultimus, Richtofen, as well as Primus Nikolai, instructs Victus to go to the Group 935 outpost in Siberia to construct an Agarthan device, said to be capable of granting its user any wish they desire. At the Siberian outpost, Victus encounters Pablo Marinus, one of Richtofen's former test subjects who was assumed to have died, and receives his help in constructing the device using the blood of the ancient apothecary being, a container dubbed the Seal of Duality and the Elemental Shard. After fully powering this device, Pablo used it to travel to the Great War, where he would assist Primus Richtofen in sending him back to Alcatraz and break the cycle. The Agarthan device is sent to Primus Nikolai, who uses it to destroy the summoning key. Nikolai reveals the truth that the Chrononium showed him. Despite their best efforts, they would be doomed to repeat the cycle if they ever participate in the Great War. He also reveals that he and the rest of Primus Ultimates are the catalysts that perpetuate the cycle. As long as any of them exist, it will allow Monty to keep the cycle going, ensuring the survival of both the universe and himself. As a result, Nikolai and both crews killed by poisoning their drinks. Nikolai has both crews killed by poisoning their drinks, then asks Samantha to kill him. The destruction of the summoning key, the summoning key, also ensures their entire multiverse, including Monty, the Apothecans, and Element 115, are banished to the Dark Ether. As Samantha and Eddie walk toward a light in the darkness, each member of Primus and Ultimus can be heard in the background revealing their desires for a life after the war. This Zombies was so over the place. It was the Chaos story. The maps were really cool, well done, but I was not following the story at all. I liked the way the game played out. I didn't like how much health you could have. Let's see. I just lost my train of thought. But the Ether story, it was really hard to travel with too, but it was fun. I liked playing those last few maps with the boys. Which one was it? I forgot what it was called. It was the very last map that came out as a DLC for Zombies. Forgot what it's called, but it had the Victus crew, all the people from Transit and Black Ops 2. It had them. It was alright. I would rate this a good 7.5 out of 10, maybe a 6.5. Yeah, multiplayer, good 9. So let's move on to Black Ops 5, and we'll close this out. What up? Time for the very last one. Multiplayer features new and returning game modes, as well as maps that accommodate both the traditional 6v6 format as well as larger 12v12 combat. The game also introduced a new game mode named Fire Team, which can support up to 40 players. The created class system for Modern Warfare returns with two major differences. Field upgrades are implemented as part of class loadouts, and each class has a wildcard choice out of 4 possible ones. Gunfighter allows up to 8 primary weapon attachments. Perk Greed allows 2 perks from each perk type from a total of 6 usable perks. Danger Close, Double Grenade Equipment, or Lawbreaker allows mixing and matching any weapon perk type in any slot. Let's just spit on my microphone. Like Modern Warfare, Cold War also supports cross-platform play and cross-platform progression. We don't really care about that. Following an update, the progression system for multiplayer is integrated with Call of Duty Warzone, allowing for a unified level system across Cold War, Warzone, and Modern Warfare. In addition, operator characters and weapons from Cold War are also added to Warzone to be used alongside Modern Warfare operators and weapons through the multiplayer modes, though the multiplayer modes remain separated and do not share operators and weapons. The campaign story. In January 1981, CIA SAD-SOG operatives Russell Adler, Alex Mason, and Frank Woods are sent to target Qasim Javadi and Aresh Kavadar for their roles in the Iran hostage crisis. With intelligence gained from interrogating Qasim, the team tracks Arash to Turkey. Arash boasts that Perseus was the one responsible for organizing the hostage crisis before being executed. U.S. President Ronald Reagan authorized a black operation team to neutralize Perseus after being briefed of his threat by Jackson Adler. Sorry, did I say Jackson Adler? Jason Hudson, and Adler. Adler's team consists of CIA operative Lawrence Sims, American-born Mossad operative Elazar Lazar Zule, and MI6 intelligence officer Helen Park, with Mason and Woods providing tactical support. The final member of the team is an agent known only by the code name Bell, who served with Adler and Sims in MACV SOG during the Vietnam War. The team starts by asking Bell to recall Operation Fracture Jaw in 1968, where Adler believes he, Bell, and Sims first encountered Perseus. Afterwards, the team proceeds to East Berlin to apprehend/kill Anton Volkov, a Russian mafia boss with ties to Perseus. Following an infiltration into a secret specialized training facility by Bell and Woods, the team discovers that Perseus had infiltrated Operation Greenlight, a top-secret American program that secretly planted neutron bombs in every major European city to deny their use to the Soviets in the event of an invasion. Mason and Woods are developed or deployed to Mount Yamantau in the Ural Mountains, where they infiltrate Nikita Dragovich's destroyed base in hopes of retrieving his list of sleeper agents. However, the team finds out that Perseus has wiped the data from the Yamantau base's mainframe, leaving their only option to infiltrate KGB headquarters to retrieve the list. Enlisting the help of one of their KGB double agent allies, Dmitry Belikov, they manage to get Adler and Bell inside the Lubyanka building. The team learns that Operation Greenlight scientist is one of the sleeper agents, and he has fled to Cuba. Hoping to catch Perseus there, the team launches a raid. They learn that Perseus has managed to steal the detonation codes for every Operation Greenlight bomb, meaning he can devastate Europe and lay the blame on the United States. The team comes under heavy fire, and Lazar and Park are injured in the process, leaving Bell only enough time to save one of them. After rescuing Bell, Adler continues to press them by provoking their memories of Vietnam once more. At this point, Bell's true identity is revealed as an agent of Perseus, having been shot by Russia and Turkey out of jealousy. Bell was found by Adler and brainwashed using Project MK Ultra into believing that they were his comrade. With Bell's memory returned, Adler interrogates them on the location of Perseus's headquarters. Bell can then either choose to remain loyal to Perseus and lie to Adler, or choose to betray Perseus and reveal his location. In the non-canonical endings, where Bell chooses to stay loyal to Perseus, they lie by telling Adler to head to the Duga Radar Ray, where the team will be too far away to stop Perseus from activating the nukes. If Bell has established contact with the Soviet army beforehand, they will trick the team into a trap and kill them with the help of Perseus and the Soviet army before they activate the nukes. If Bell refuses to kill the team, Bell is executed by Adler, but the nukes still go off. Europe is devastated by the explosions, and the public opinion of the United States plummets. The CIA is forced to erase the existence of Adler and his team in an effort to cover up the United States' involvement in Operation Greenlight. Perseus boasts that his agents in Europe will take advantage of the chaos to infiltrate every European government and turn them towards the Soviet Union, while his agents in the United States will continue to undermine the country. In the canonical ending, where Bell decides to betray Perseus and help the CIA, they, along with the team, assault Perseus's headquarters in the Solvetsky Islands and destroy the transmitters needed to send the detonation signal. With the failure of Operation Greenlight, Perseus goes into hiding, though Adler swears to continue pursuing him and dismantle his spy network. Later, Al takes Bell out for a private conversation, assuring them that their choice to turn against Perseus was of their own free will and that they are a hero. Adler then admits Bell must be eliminated as a loose end, and both draw their guns, with the scene fading to black as gunshots are heard. Man, I loved, this was my favorite campaign out of the entire Black Ops series. First of all, it has Frank and Woods, duh, but it was so well put together with all the brainwashing and Bell actually being an agent of Perseus, and it was so well done. I love anything in the 80s or 90s, so playing this was just a really, really fun thing. I actually have the full campaign uploaded on my YouTube channel. If you want to see that, you can find it. But let's look at the zombies here. Why is the zombie so long? Oh my god, dude. I gotta read so much more. In 1983, CIA Special Officer Gregory Weaver is contacted by an acquaintance, former BND operative Samantha Maxis, who provides him with secret KGB intelligence. Weaver learns from Maxis that during World War II, the Nazis attempted an experiment in a secret bunker in Moscow, Poland, where they managed to reanimate dead soldiers into zombies. Afterwards, the bunker was discovered and sealed by the Soviet Union, only to be recently uncovered by Omega Group, a KGB Spetsnaz joint research team working in the favor of the Soviet Union. As a result, several dark ether anomalies begin to appear around the world, unleashing zombies in their wake. A classified task force codenamed Requiem is assembled to combat the global undead threats, as well as conduct research into the anomalies for technological advancement. In November 1983, Requiem deploys a strike team to the bunker in Moscow, dubbed Project End Station, where they discover a rift that acts as a gateway to the dark ether dimension, responsible for other global dimensional breaches. Upon further investigation, the strike team uncovers a device in the facility called a Der Wechsler, which can restore a zombie's brain functionality. The strike team uses it on one of the roaming zombies in the facility, who was a former Omega Group member named Orlov. In turn, he agrees to help them close the dimensional rift. Orlov successfully seals the rift, destroying End Station and sacrificing himself in the process, while allowing the strike team to escape. Following End Station's destruction, Maxis investigates further into Omega Group's activities and travels to Outpost 25, located in Ao Sao Valley, Vietnam, but is captured by Omega forces and thrown into the dark ether dimension. In June 1984, Requiem strike team arrives at Outpost 25 and makes contact with Captain Sergei Ravanov, Maxis' mole within Omega. Ravanov guides the strike team through the undead-infested facility, while also dealing with Dr. William Peck, an American scientist who defeated the Omega, or who defected to Omega. Defecated. After learning from Peck of Maxis' current situation, the strike team attempts to open a portal and stabilize it long enough for Maxis to escape the dimension. They eventually succeed and exfiltrate with Maxis, while Ravanov elects to remain undercover as Omega continues their operation in the Ural Mountains. Following Requiem's success, Omega leaders Colonel Lev Kravchenko and Dr. Alexandra Valentina travel to Outpost 25 to confront Peck about his failure. In an effort to catch up to Omega Group's progress, Requiem launches Operation Threshold, a large-scale mission across the Ural Mountains, where the largest outbreak zones have been identified. Over the next several months, Requiem operators are deployed in multiple Ural regions in order to eliminate undead targets, capture specimen, and commence further research on the mysterious Ethereum element. Meanwhile, Maxis is quarantined under isolation due to her time spent in the dark ether dimension. In November 1984, Maxis secretly contacts the Requiem strike team during their mission, requesting them to meet with Ravanov. At the missile silo in Ruka, Ravanov reveals that Peck has been using Ethereum crystals to supercharge nuclear warheads, which would allow Omega Group to create new outbreak zones wherever they choose. Now wishing to let either side possess the warheads, Maxis instructs Ravanov and the strike team to work together and direct the warheads toward the Pacific Ocean, where they can be safely dumped. After clearing out a massive zombie horde guarding the silo, the strike team succeeds in deploying the warheads and manages an exfil. Afterwards, Ravanov contacts Weaver via Maxis' secret radio channel and requests Requiem's help in extracting several Omega scientists who wish to defect from the group. Though angry at Ravanov and Maxis' secrecy, Weaver agrees to help him carry out the operation. Sometimes later, the strike team receives intel from Ravanov that he has lost contact with the scientists. The team is sent to the state sanitarium U-23 to investigate a crash site to help extract the scientists. However, they are all murdered by Dr. Hugo Jaeger, an Omega scientist who was secretly a mole planted by Kravchenko to root out the defectors. The strike team attempts to exfil but is captured by Kravchenko and Omega forces. Amidst the operations at the Ural Mountains, both Requiem and Omega come into contact with Kazimir Zykov, a Soviet engineer who was originally sent to the end station bunker in 1945 to shut it down and has been trapped inside the dark ether since then. Zykov, who wishes to escape the dimension, has attempted to reach out to the real world, giving both Requiem and Omega warnings of a mysterious entity commanding the undead forces from within. Meanwhile, Valentina continues to further her own agenda to open a gateway to the dark ether in hopes of freeing her father, who seemingly has been communicating with her from the other side since her childhood. Omega Group eventually deduces Valentina's real identity as the daughter of Ulrich Vogel, a Nazi scientist who previously led Project Endstation. 2 months after the strike team's capture, an outbreak occurs in East Berlin where Valentina was last sighted. Having learned of her true allegiance, Kravchenko decides to deploy the Requiem strike team at the Berlin site to stop her while overseeing their mission. Upon arriving in Berlin, Kravchenko and the strike team learn that Valentina has been mutated with dark ether energy by Forsaken, the entity mentioned by Zykov, who was also masquerading as Vokal to trick Valentina into doing his bidding. The strike team reaches an abandoned CIA safe house and reactivates Klaus, a combat robot customized with an artificial intelligence module created by the director of Requiem. With Omega Group's instructions, the team constructs a miniature Ethereum warhead using the components left on site by the CIA. Valentina attempts to stop them but is ultimately defeated, and her energy is used to refine the Ethereum for the warhead. As the Forsaken taunts Requiem of his imminent arrival, Klaus carries the warhead through the portal to complete the mission. Kravchenko attempts to betray the strike team at the last minute, but Maxis, using her dark ether power, manages to open a portal, allowing the team to return home safely. Meanwhile, the director monitors Maxis and sends a group memo to an unknown recipient, noting her growing power as a concern toward Project Janus. Huge Janus. An Operation Threshold expands into the northern Atlantic Sea and Algeria. The director continues to pressure Maxis in isolation, coercing her into using her powers. Meanwhile, Omega Group authorizes a new operation to free Zykov from the Dark Ether, intending to use this opportunity to take down the Forsaken with their own warheads. Requiem, after receiving intel on Omega's new operation from Ravanov, also intends to free Zykov by their own means. On June 4th, 1985, the Requiem strike team is deployed to an Omega test site in Ukraine, where Kravchenko and Peck are conducting the final steps to open the Dark Ether Gateway. They succeed in freeing Zykov, only to learn that he was the Forsaken all along. After Kravchenko and Peck attempt to escape the facility, Maxis and the strike team make their final stand against the Forsaken. Eventually, Maxis sacrifices herself by plunging into a dark ether portal, weakening the Forsaken enough for him to be captured by Omega's containment chamber. With the Forsaken defeated, all global outbreak zones are collapsed and the undead threat is contained. The director, revealed to be Edward Eddie Richtofen, orders Requiem to be shut down and its department leads apprehended alongside the strike team, while the Forsaken's chamber is delivered to an unknown location. 5 years later, Peck travels to Japan and charters a boat to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, claiming that he is looking for some old friends. I've only played like 1 or 2 maps from the zombies, but from what I read, it must be like really, really cool. I've seen Noah J456 and a few other people play it, and it looks really fun. I think they said some pretty good things about it, but it was also kind of iffy. The graphics were great. I love the loadouts and stuff. I'd rate it a good, because I don't know much, I'd rate it a good 8 out of 10. Multiplayer was so much fun. I love the 80s, and I love the maps, and bringing back like Raid and those maps. Thank you all so much for listening. I know that this one is longer than any other one that I've ever done. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, start this one off, this series off with Call of Duty Black Ops, because of how much I love it. We're gonna do the Warfares next, which is Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3, and Modern Warfare 2019, and then Modern Warfare 2, and then Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, and be good people.